This video shows how to write an inequality in interval notation. First, to introduce the symbols. We have two brackets. We use this anytime we include our n values, meaning we will typically use this when we have a less than equal to or a greater than equal to. The parentheses are used whenever we do not include, meaning we exclude the n values. That's typically when you see a less than or a greater than. These two are usually used in conjunction whenever we're talking about something that goes towards infinity or towards negative infinity, or if we have a unique compound inequality. So let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. The first one is about x is greater than equal to 5. So if I drew this on a number line, I would start where we have 5. And since it's greater than equal to, we include it. That means we have a solid dot. And we're going to shade towards the right. And towards the right is where we head towards positive infinity. So now to write this inequality, x is greater than equal to 5, we will use this and this to write it in interval notation. We will start with the smaller number, which is 5, and go towards the larger number. And we don't need to write the positive or the infinity, okay? Since we are a solid dot indicating we're including 5, including means we're going to put a bracket. Infinity is just a concept. It's not something we ever reach. So infinity and negative infinity will always use a parenthesis around it. Now let's compare that to x is greater than 5. Here's the only difference. At 5, instead of including it, we're excluding it, which means I have an open dot. Greater than equal to, again, still heading towards positive infinity. Now we're going to use, for x is greater than 5, we're going to use our 5 and infinity still, just like we did before. 5, comma, infinity, always the smallest then the largest. But because we're excluding it, we're going to use a parenthesis. Infinity always has a parenthesis. All right, our next example, x is less than equal to 3. So on a number line, I would start with 3. Less than equal to means we're including the value of 3, solid dot. Less than equal to means we're heading down here towards negative infinity. Now to write this inequality, x is less than or equal to 3, I'll use these two values, the negative infinity and the 3. We start with the smaller value, go to the larger value. Infinities and negative infinities always have parentheses. Since we're including the value of 3, that's what that less than equal to lets us do. We put a bracket around 3. Compare that again to x just being less than 3. That means we exclude the value of 3, but we do pick everything less than it. So everything towards negative infinity. So this last inequality, again, we'll start with the lower number, negative infinity, up to the larger one, which is 3. We always put parentheses around negative infinity. And since we're excluding 3, we put a parenthesis around it as well. All right, now let's look at some compound inequalities. So this is the exact same compound inequality. The only difference in it is whether it's less than equal to or it's just a less than. All three of these are between -1 and 4. So if I go from -1 to 4, this first inequality says x has to be greater than or equal to -1. That means I'm including -1. The second part says x has to be less than or equal to 4. That means I'm including 4. And we talk about every value in between. To write the interval notation, we go from -1, the smaller number, to 4, which is the larger number. And since we include -1, we put a bracket around it. Since we include 4, we put a bracket around it as well. The next one, the difference is we're going to exclude -1 and 4. This first part of the inequality says x has to be greater than -1, indicates an open dot. The second part says x has to be less than 4, again, indicates an open dot. That means we have everything in between them, okay? In this case, again, we'll start with the lower number, go to the larger number. Since we are excluding -1, we put a parenthesis, and we're excluding the 4, we put a parenthesis. The last one you see is a combination. We have at the first inequality is x is greater than or equal to -1. That means we're including -1, solid dot. And the second part says x is less than 4, which means we exclude 4. It's everything less than that. So greater than equal to -1, less than 4. So again, we go with the smaller number to the larger number. Since we're a solid dot, we're less than equal to, we're including the -1. At the 4, we're less than, we're excluding, we put a parentheses. And that is interval notation.